tonight, can you just take some few seconds and bless God in this place? Bless him, bless him. Bless him, somebody lift your voice and bless him. Come on, lift your voice and bless him. This is the time, lift your voice, lift your voice. Oh, come on, somebody. He's all over this place. Nobody needs to tell you that the Lord is here. Lift your voice. Come on, I know you came for a recording, but anything can happen tonight. It is an experience of a lifetime. God of miracles. I don't know the miracle that you're expecting in your life, but this is the time. Somebody open your mouth. Somebody open your mouth. Open your mouth. Jesus.
Are we live? Okay. Welcome everyone to day 2 of our Young People's Week. Today we will be discussing our identity as Ghanaians growing up in America. My name is Giovanna. Baisie-Arthur. I am one of the youth service team planners, and we have Sister Clara, Ajani, Aldrin, Sister Jessica Mills-Odoi, and Brother Oliver Nimoh joining us today as we discuss this topic. We're going to take it in a discussion style, and we have others on the Zoom, so hopefully we'll be able to get through our questions so that we can have those on the Zoom join us in our discussion. Okay. So let's get straight into the topic. Again, this is a safe space for our young people. This is by the young people for the young people, so it's a safe space for our young people to come and talk about this topic. Again, we're talking about our Ghanaian identity in America, so I'll go ahead and start us with the first question. I don't know who wants to go first, but our first question is, were you born in the States or in Ghana? And then I'll add that to the second question, okay? So who wants to answer the first question?
I can answer. So I was born in the States. I was born in Maryland, and I've lived in Maryland all of my life. So yeah.
Okay, thanks for sharing.
Okay, I guess I'll go next. I was born in Ghana, and I actually came around when I was 6 years old, and we lived in New Jersey, lived in New York, and we settled in Maryland, so spent most of my life in Maryland.
I was born in Ghana. I came when I was 19 years old, so it hasn't been that long.
I was also born here from birth. Yeah. Washington, D.C., and raised in Maryland. So we have a good balance of experiences today. So it's going to be very interesting. Alrighty. So the next question that I want to ask, you guys can go into detail as much as you would like. We'll also keep track of any questions that anyone has through Zoom or through Facebook Live. So please feel free to post any questions that you may have that we can all discuss. The next question is, when people ask you your identity, what do you usually reply? That can be a touchy subject for some Africans. So I would love to hear what you guys say when people ask you where you're from or like what your race ethnicity is.
I always say Ghanaian. I know like being in America, the word black and African American and black American is used interchangeably, but I would say like for me in my house, we never really use the word black just because I feel that in Ghana, nobody really realizes they're black because everybody's black. So it's never really a term that was circulated between us. So it wasn't until I started using the word black or African American. So I always consider I was African American, but no one really uses the term Black American here either. So I always just tell people I'm Ghanaian.
I guess for me, like especially in maybe like the workplace and things, I would say that like I was born here, but I'm Ghanaian. Like my parents were born and raised in Ghana. I was born here. Um, and I feel like I preface that because there might be some sort of like perception that, oh, you're from Ghana, like you can speak the language, or like there are certain things that they expect you to know. And maybe I don't know all those things. So I always kind of preface it that, yes, I'm Ghanaian, but like I've lived here my entire life. So.
For me, I always say I'm Ghanaian. I was born and raised in Ghana. I lived there for about 19 years, so that's a pretty long time for me. I know and learned a lot of stuff from there, so I don't even see myself as an American or anything. When people ask me, I always say I'm Ghanaian, regardless, and that's what it is.
I also I connect more with what Sister Clara said. It's hard also, and I think it's something we can also discuss because growing up, it's sometimes some people invalidate your Ghanaian when you're born here. They're like, oh, you don't know anything. Like you were born here, you're American. Even my mom does that to me. It kind of hurts my feelings because either wherever you had me, I would have been Ghanaian because of you guys. So I always consider myself Ghanaian American. Does anyone have anything else they want to add before we get into the next question? Okay. Alrighty, so this should be a longer answered question. How has your Ghanaian upbringing affected your identity?
Oh, well, I guess a funny story would be for sleepovers and stuff. They don't allow sleepovers, and I didn't understand it at the time. I didn't go to like my first sleepover, I think, until I was 13. So like the level of discipline and like strictness, I had to beg. I on it like they were getting ready to come pick me up, and they had to like my friends like were like pleading with my dad to let me stay, and I ended up staying, and I regretted it actually because then I got sick. So I was like, maybe this is a reason why they don't let me go anywhere. But yeah, I think like the level of discipline and the respect, um, it's definitely different from when you interact with other people who are like, your parents just you just can live anyhow. Like certain things it would never cross your mind to do or to say. Uh, it was, yeah, even in college, I had like professors or even like Bible study leaders who were like older than me, and they'd be like, oh, call me by my first name. And I felt so uncomfortable. I was like, this just feels wrong. And so when I would try and like address them, I'd like not use their name or try and do something else. But yeah, it was just very weird to me. So yeah, I'd say definitely the level of discipline.
I connect with that because even in my internship, like we're all adults and my supervisor's like, yeah, just call me Sharon. And I'm just like, Miss Huffman. And it was so hard. It was so hard for me. It's still hard for me. So yeah, definitely agree with that.
I definitely agree that it's a culture thing. Like, I would say our culture is so deeply rooted that some things that you don't even think you believe or you follow, you just do it subconsciously. Like, God bless you, Clara, because there was no sleepovers. My parents were not having it. My mom said, hey, we have water, we have bed, you have food, sleep where? Or what? What? Hey, you come sleep here, you can sleep here. They want to come, they can come play, and they can leave. So like stuff like that is so funny. Like even when I was younger, like my mom was like so against t-shirts. Like when I was in elementary school, middle school, like we used to dress up to go to school. But like we did not wear flip-flops. I probably didn't wear t-shirts until I was like in flip-flops. I would sneak them in my backpack and like wear them. But I think a lot, even like we talked about the funny stuff, but a lot of cultural things, like Sister Claire said, like how you speak to people, how you present yourself. There's so many things so deeply rooted in ourselves. Like even when you go into someone's house, you never go empty-handed. That's something you just always learn, even till now. It's like you just do it subconsciously. And there's just so many different nuances in how we speak, how we present ourselves, how we talk to people, and even our level of work ethic. So I think there's so much structure within the culture that you learn, whether you were born in Ghana or born here, you learn and you just integrate it so much into your life that it is life. So I would definitely say culture for sure. Even sometimes like when I talk to my friends or other Africans, just like, okay, we don't do that over here. But it's just you mind your business that pays you, but you know, it's so much of that culture is just so deeply rooted in who we are, essence in our identity, I would say.
Yeah, we can definitely talk a little bit more about that too.
Yeah, I think it has to do more with communication for me, because people tend to see like a different side of me as a Ghanaian when I speak. Um, Sister Giovanna said at your workplace, yeah, the first day of my rotations, I heard everybody call my preceptor by her name, right? So I was like, am I supposed to do that or am I supposed to say something else? It actually took me about 2 weeks for me to be able to say her name without adding a doctor or miss or whatever. So also your actions too. People begin to see you a certain way. They think you're actually grown when you act or speak a certain way because of the way we're brought up. I lived in Ghana for a long time, so there's some stuff that I'm used to, especially being in school, speaking to your professors, even going to church. You're started from Sunday school. You're showed how to speak to people, how not to speak to people. You can't just walk up to an older person and just say anything. Starts off by greeting. When you're even going to somebody's house, just like you said, first of all, you have to knock. If you're going into somebody's room, you have to knock regardless of who it is. Even if it's a friend, sometimes you're like, just come in, like, what are you doing? But it's just the way we're brought up. It makes us act a certain way, which I think people here see it as, they tend to see it as maturity, if I could put it that way. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everyone when it comes to like respect and culture. Like you move differently because you're Ghanaian. Like there are some things that I will see people do, and I think I even started noticing it when I was in like elementary school, like the way that some of the students talk to the teachers. I was like, your mom, she's not gonna hear about this when you get home. Like you're not gonna hear something like. And then even in college, that's when I really saw the difference. I was like, yeah, you guys are crazy. Like the culture of the respect and like the even the you're talking about like the like supervisor. Like I guess in America, like you know, when you're an adult, everyone is an adult, so you can call each other by first name. Like, they'll be like, yeah, you can call me. I'm like, no, Dr. Summers, Dr. Rucker. Like, I'll do it jokingly, but it was very hard for me because it's like there's so much respect, and I'm so thankful that we have that because a lot of people are like, wow, you're so respectful. Like, the way that you carry yourself is so different compared to other people, and people notice that. So definitely agree. And honestly, I want to add the heritage aspect of it. Like, I am so proud to know where I come from, to know like my family is back home, um, like compared to others. And it's in no way like boasting compared to, because I've had interactions with African Americans where like they'll say like, oh, Africans are so like cocky about it, but we're just proud about our culture, and I that's one thing that I really like adhere to.
Yeah.
I,
Sorry. I wanted to ask
yeah,
something. When you're speaking about respect, I think one thing too is because of the way we're punished back home, or even here, you know, over here when I'm not somebody who's not Ghanaian or who was born here, sometimes when they do something wrong, they say, "Oh, go to the basement, go stay there," you know. But for us, it was different. You get beat. So that could have put a fear in us. So even when you're talking, even if when you're old and you're talking to somebody, you just have that at the back of your mind. Oh, this is what can happen to. I mean, although it won't happen, but you still have that in you, and that kind of brings out the respect.
yeah. So I wanted to
Yeah.
add this
So,
question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sister Jess.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but no, to what you said, like here in America, it's like you said, like once you're an adult, it's like everyone's on the same playing field, which I find so weird because, like, I don't, like with my professors and people I work with, bosses are so casual, but we don't have that type of casualness in Ghanaian culture. Even if it's like an older relative, like you don't have that level of casualness. So, but no, that's I was gonna say something else, but I forgot. But it'll probably come back to me.
Yeah, I definitely agree that level of casualness is not there. And I think, I don't know if I'm the only one who's experienced it transitioning into like the work world and like stuff, that it's been very hard for me to see myself as an adult with the other adults because they'll be talking to me like normal, and I'm just like, yeah, this is adults place, so I don't need to be talking. Like, sometimes I just keep really quiet because it's just, that's how I grew up, and I don't think people understand that.
Yeah, at my last job, like I worked with, I was the youngest person in my department, and most of the people there were like 40s, 50s. All they talked about was like kids and mortgages and cutting the grass, and I'm like, I don't relate to any of this. And I was like, this is none of my business. It's kind of like when you're in places where it's none of your business, you just learn to not speak. But they always thought something was wrong. They're like, you don't like us, you don't speak. I was like, I don't have children, I don't mow the grass, I don't have a mortgage. But it's also like, this is too casual. Like, whenever people ask me how old I am, I have to start counting on my fingers. How old are you? Because it's like you get to a certain age where like your age just starts to blend. When you're 20, you're like 20 something. It's like you don't really remember the exact age, but I don't feel like an adult. But kids are calling me auntie, asking for a plate. I'm not that old yet. Like,
We'll definitely have to have a conversation
but
about
no,
that transition from, the kids starting to call you auntie and telling you that you're old, because it's real. So I kind of wanted to add this question for Sister Jessica and Brother Oliver, and just ask, what was your transition like moving from Ghana to America?
oh wait. Oh, do you want me to go first?
Okay, go.
Okay, I'll go. I would say my transition was, it was just different just because I was younger. And it was also one of those things where I was always surrounded by Africans. So I never really knew the difference until I started going to school. And I started noticing like there was very big differences, but I just didn't understand why the other kids didn't understand me. So it was a really odd transition for me. And I would say it was very hard just because there's such a dissonance between Black Americans and Africans. And I would say like there was a lot bigger difference when I was younger than it is now. Like now everyone wants to kiki and come to the motherland for the year of the return. But like back then, like the type of names they would call me or like make fun of me. And I never hated myself. I was just mad that they hated me for what I was. But also that comes with not understanding. So, you know, you go through that, you heal and all of that jazz. But for me, it wasn't, it was like a gradual shift, but it was a lot of, because my parents didn't really know a lot of Black Americans, and they didn't know a lot about Black Americans, you know, besides the stereotypes. And most of the, I went to Ghanaian church, we hung out with Ghanaian people, never really saw Black Americans until I went to school, or just other Americans until I was at school. So I would say for me, it wasn't like a culture shock. It was just more of a gradual shift, just because I had a balance of environments. I had mostly Ghanaian, like we only ate Ghanaian food at home. Didn't really eat school food like that. So it felt like I could, versus me feeling like it was a culture shock.
Uh, I don't think it was a really big transition for me. I always try to fit in wherever I go, and I try to copy some stuff that people do. So when I came at first, uh, I think a couple of people, Brother Fee, Asafa Fee, and Brother Aben, they could see the way I was trying to talk. Like it felt like I was forcing it, you know. But it's just, I think the first month, I had went to the mall or something with my family, and then there was a lady we went with. So I was saying something, and she's like, "Do you speak English?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I'm doing." So it kind of made me feel some type of way. And every time I go to work and I say something and people don't understand, I try to listen to what they say in return. So when they say a word in their way, I try to pick it up and say it the same way. So I think about a year later, I started to see a change, even though it kind of sounded funny in the beginning. But you know, it was a whole process. Just like Sister Jessica said, going to school, I started college here. I didn't go to high school here. So I felt like it was good for me because in a community college, it was a lot of Africans, you know, a few people who are from here. So if you even talking to somebody, it's like they talk the same way you're doing. They talk the same way you talk. So it doesn't make you feel bad that you sound that way. You just want to sound like that, but with time try to improve. So I had a lot of African friends, mostly Ghanaians. So it wasn't like every time I was speaking, you know, English. It was mostly the local dialect, which is Tree. Back home, we don't speak English. Everybody speaks Tree. So you can't, even in my house, my niece, I think all of you guys know her. I tell her not to speak English because it will get to a point where she won't be able to speak the language. So when she's talking to me and she speaks English, I'm like, speak Trini, because if you speak English to me, I'm not gonna respond. Because it's not like I'm trying to force it on her, but it's something that I feel like we should put in the youth growing up, so that when they grow, they will not leave it behind. It's something that they will take with them. And I mean, we plan on teaching our kids. When she gets to that point, she could also do the same, and it keeps the culture going. So it wasn't really a big transition for me in terms of like school and all. It just felt like in the beginning, it felt like I knew more, so it made me kind of relaxed, and that was actually hurting me. But it got to a point. People keep telling me like, you were born in Ghana. You know, you used to take like 12 classes in high school at a time, so you have to be on top of things. Like you can't be slacking or you can't be doing what these people do. So it got to a point. It really pushed me because I'm like, I'm from a different country. You know, I came here for a purpose, for a reason, and I have to get to my goal. So it's kind of like a push for me. The only tough thing I think was getting adjusted to like working and being in school at the same time, because every worker or manager, they always want you to be at work. Some people don't even care about school, so trying to balance it was the hardest part. But with time, after a couple of years, I got used to it, and here I am.
I just wanted to interject, cough. There's a lot of us back home who speak Ghana, so how to represent for my people.
Yeah.
I
So
just
I
wanted to.
actually wanted to transition to that next question because you brought up a good topic, Brother Oliver. Do you still speak your language? I know you already said yours, but I guess it will be for all of us. Do you still speak your language? And do you plan on trying to pass that on to like the next generation? So I'll let Sister Clara go first.
So unfortunately, no. I do want to learn, um, but I'm very confident that I'll pass things down to my children. And I think, yeah, I would say just having that like cultural preservation is very important. Um, it's not like my parents didn't try and teach me. There were just some additional like circumstances where just it didn't pan out the way that I would have we would have liked it to. So I think one thing to note back in the day, doctors would say to parents, and like coming here and stuff, parents, they don't necessarily know all the systems and understand, I guess, they're trying to assimilate. And so back in the day, the research was saying for doctors that if you teach your child multiple languages, like it'll confuse them, it will delay their speech. And so they had tried to teach me originally, but unfortunately, the advice of the doctor was kind of like, oh, like if you teach her, it'll kind of delay other things, which we now know is not the case clearly. So that kind of screwed things up, but I'm very confident that my kids will like learn the language, and there'll be some form of like cultural preservation, like take the good and leave the parts that I want to modify. So
Um, yeah, I do want to teach my child or children. Oh, I have to clarify. Okay, so I wasn't talking about just tree. I was talking about, all the languages. Fatigue, and all.
Okay, you
Yeah.
felt the heat in the kitchen.
My mom speaks both Chi and Fanti. I'm trying to learn I mean, I know how to speak a little bit of Fanti, but there's some words that I can't pronounce. Nobody taught me nothing. I had to like try to learn when I hear people speaking, just like I said, with English. So that's something I'm trying to do so that I'll be able to speak at least two. Um, I think I was asking Sister Jessica one time something in God because I was trying to know a word that I could use it. I could use it sometimes. So that's also something that I wanna start learning too, if that's possible. But yeah, I do want to teach my children how to speak uh, Chi, Fanti, Ga. I mean, if I have the chance to learn Ga, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, how about this? You teach me tree, and I'll teach you Ghana. How
Okay.
about that? Because I don't do well with YouTube videos.
You say you don't
It's
do.
not working for me. I struggle with the YouTube tutorial videos. I'm trying to pronounce it. I feel like I sound crazy. But I would say, like, for me, my parents spoke multiple different languages. My mom, she speaks Ewe, she speaks Tree, she speaks Gan, she speaks Fanti. My dad as well, and he also spoke German. So my parents spoke like multiple different languages. And as I was a kid, like, I learned Gan pretty easily, but Tree was always so hard for me. So, I mean, 20 years later, I'm still working on it. But I'm such a big fan of learning multiple languages. And I think to what Brother Oliver said, it's important to keep a culture going. And those are the things that happen because I feel that there's such a disconnect with a lot of youth that either come here as a young age or that were born here, that there's a disconnect where they don't learn not just the language, but some of the cultural things, something as simple as like national anthem or who certain people are. And I think those are important things that really keep the culture going because there's so much history there that and the unfortunate part is sometimes like we think it's all the parents' fault, but in Ghana you live in quarters where your auntie's next door, your uncle's here, your neighbor's here, your friend is here, and there's so many people there that it's a whole community that you're learning from your parents, but you're also learning from everybody who's around you. And I think it's a little bit different here in America because everything is really, they push the whole independence thing and intersecular family thing that you don't see big communities like Ghanaian or even different African communities the way you'd see back in Africa. So I think that's the more challenging part because our parents come here for a better life, they're working multiple jobs, they're trying to go to school, they're trying to do this, and us, we're doing the same thing too. And it's like we're running this rat race that we never really get to slow down enough to take the time to say, hey, let's sit down and learn something as simple as what's the essence of waist beads? What is homo law? Like, what is the real, like, historical context behind it? Because it starts in the village. Like, what's the historical context behind all these buildings and these people? And why do people think Kwame Nkrumah is so cool? Like, there's so many different layers to it that I think it's sad because you get to a certain age that you really start to do your own research and kind of fill in the gaps of the things that you just didn't get a chance to get a hold of. So I think culture is so important, and the more we can connect, and I think it's great how we have like funerals and weddings and all these great events that we can all connect, and in church as well. And it's so funny that we've been talking about language because everybody, even Brother Oliver, everybody is like, "Ah, I didn't even know you speak Ghana." But I mean, everyone from the church, if you're listening, everybody at church speaks Tree. There's very few of us that speak God. So it's like, most of the time I don't even bother because they say, ah, mommy, no. I'm like, okay.
Like, I think this is what you're
But no, I speak God.
So,
Say it
yeah,
again.
the Fante is rough. It's very rough. Oliver, you heard me. It's rough. One of my resolutions last year was to like try and bring back my Fante because that's really something I love. Fante so much. You don't understand. And sometimes some of the words, I was like, wow, that's a tongue twister, isn't it? And so I just like, I really try, like, I've really been like trying to talk to like my cousins here and practice with them, even like telling my mom, just like speak Fanti to me. And then I'll try and reply to her. Cause like, I still understand it, which I'm very thankful that I still understand it. But it's the talking part that's hard. And it's hard. And I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but like, when you go back to Ghana, not you, Oliver, but when you go back to Ghana and then you try and then they're making fun of you, and it's like, okay, well, I'm not gonna say anything anymore. I'm not gonna say anything. You created this monster. I'm not gonna say anything. So that's what I've experienced, but I think I'm going to like let go of the embarrassment and kind of just try because I want to pass that on to my kids because I love Fante so much. And I wanna understand God too. I'll be singing God gospel songs, so I wanna understand it too.
I think that's a really good point. Just for our parents and, like the community around us to encourage us, like when we're trying to encourage us, and instead of maybe joking about our accents or stuff like that, just really encouraging us to have that dialogue. And because in the end, you want us to preserve the culture, is it not? So help us help you in a way and we can all kind of grow together and also just preserve the culture. So
And I just wanted to read this comment from Sister Cecilia from Toronto Circuit. So true. One of the reasons why some children don't want to learn the language because adults make fun of us. Yeah, it's really hard because there'll be adults who are like, speak tree, speak French. But when we open our mouth to say, they're like, oh, what are you saying? I was like, I'm speaking tree like you told me to. Like it's hard. It's hard on your mental.
What did you say, Sister Jessica?
I said American girl. That's what I hear that my accent. If I'm in Ghana, they say, hey. Well, I'm not gonna say it because you got it.
So I guess we're going
I was
to.
gonna say they just where are you from? They have the directions. Yeah. Oh, go
So
ahead. Sorry.
oh, no, you're fine. I guess we'll go into our last question and then leave room for any questions or if anyone wants to contribute to anything that we've said. So our last question is, how did or how are you going to maintain your Ghanaian culture?
I would say for myself, it was hard in the beginning just because, like, even when I was in church when I was younger, most of the kids or the other young adults that were there, like, they were in Ghana a lot longer than I was. So it just felt like a weird disconnect just because there was not enough relativity. But I would say that within my family, like we have always gone to Ghanaian church. Like I said, we didn't eat American food until I was like high school, like almost end of high school, and we're so integrated into like we speak the language at home, we eat the food, and most of the people that we talk to are all Ghanaian people. So I think it's like working through practice. So if you're in certain environments, it reinforces that within you, within the subconscious, without you having to sit down and say, we're learning Ghan today, or we're learning this, or we're going to do this and that. So for me, that's how it was when I was younger. And now I would say I definitely have way more Ghanaian friends than when I was younger. And they're all very much because you go through a phase when you're in America, like you're trying to assimilate, like Brother Oliver was saying, but you get to a point where you feel more comfortable within being a Ghanaian because there's so many other people your age who are openly embracing being Ghanaian, listening to the music, dancing, whatever, and all of that that goes with it. So it's just a little bit more comfortable. And you feel comfortable speaking the language, wearing the clothes, going to the events, and just freely thinking about your culture. So I think that for me right now, maintaining it, like that's what that means to maintain it. Being able to go to events with my friends, it's their birthday party, we're playing the latest Ghanaian songs and everyone's having a good time. It just reinforces that without it having to be like us working too hard to reinforce it.
Um, I started listening to a lot of like old songs because I don't like the new ones, to be honest. I feel like the old ones kind of have like some how do I even put it? It has some like good words in it that are educative. But I feel like the new ones they just be saying stuff, just and try to get the beat right. But I started listening to old songs because I picked some stuff from there. I realized I think some time ago that there's some songs that we sing at church that I don't really know. So I just stay quiet when the older people are singing at church. I'm like, oh, that's a song like this, and brother Aben and Asafa Phoebe telling me, yeah, you need to listen to songs like this. So it's something I've been trying to do. Also, like wearing clothes, like African, native attire, like Sister Jessica said. Now, like I think I had a shirt, and the design in it was like a kente, and I took it to work, and everybody was like, "Oh, that's really nice. Where you from?" It's not like an African, how do I say it, like a church thing, but it's just like a tee, and they have a design in it, and it looked really nice. Everybody was like, "Oh, what country are you from?" Just representing my country, not being afraid or worried about what people are gonna say. Oh, why is this guy wearing this? He's too African. I mean, I may sound too African. I may dress too African, whatever you want to call it, or I may look too Ghanaian or whatever you want to say. But you can't really take that away from me. That's just who I am, and I'm gonna stay that way. At home, I eat Ghanaian food. I know how to make a lot of Ghanaian foods, but when it comes to like American food, like all of that stuff, I don't really know how to make that. I'm trying to keep that in and me, the family I'm trying to raise in the future, everything has to be from the roots, not like something I learned from here. I plan on, going back some time, maybe to even start a business or something. So that's my plan, and I pray it goes well.
Amen.
This is Clara.
I guess for me, the power of storytelling, honestly, has really like helped me, I think, embrace the culture a lot more. My parents love to tell stories of how they grew up, and it's never the same story, which makes it interesting. Or like something will come to mind and I'll ask, and there's like this whole wealth of knowledge that's just like waiting to be shared. And so I definitely think the history and like storytelling aspects of like this is how I grew up in school, or this is what we had to do. Even before like coming on the line, my mom was telling me about how they only had like one school uniform and they didn't have like electric irons, and so they needed to use the box iron, and if you had the charcoal that would fall through, then it would burn your
Yeah.
holes into the clothing and all of that stuff. And it puts things into perspective, but it's just, I don't know, personally for me, I just love stories and like the storytelling aspect. So definitely having like my kids exposed to the history and also like the stories, and also like visiting back home. I didn't get a chance to visit until like 2017. So allowing them the opportunity to go more frequently, I think, just to spend time with cousins and aunts and uncles and stuff would be great. So
I definitely agree with everything everybody said. I love being Ghanaian so much. Like, I want to pass everything on. And I definitely agree with the storytelling. Like, sometimes I'll just sit with my parents and just ask them about, like, different fancy words. Like, I learned a new fancy word the other day that I didn't know about. Like, they just tell me new things every day. I love that. Like, get those stories out of your parents, your aunts, and your uncles before they're gone. Like, even recently losing my grandmother and like talking to my mom about her, like I realized there's a lot about her that I didn't know. So definitely the storytelling aspect, definitely that language aspect, because don't want that to die out. Also the level of respect that we have, definitely want my kids to have that level of respect. And I was just like thinking about like growing up, how for us, the people who were born here who were Ghanaian, we got made fun of for being African, like African booty scratcher, and you smell, and we don't bathe and stuff like that. So for a long time, like I didn't want to tell people that I was Ghanaian. It wasn't until I got around that group of Africans that it makes you love your culture more and be like prideful about it. So definitely like knowing you're from somewhere, you can trace like what village you're from, what house you're from, like you can do that. So definitely passing that on. So yeah, is there anything anyone wanted to add? We wanted to leave room for any contributions from those who are joining us on Zoom. So we can keep using that question. If anyone has any contribution they want to do, how would you maintain your Ghanaian culture? Or if there are any questions anyone has. Yes, Sister Vera, please.
To go along with, somebody had mentioned something about like the storytelling aspect and visiting aunties and uncles. And this is the one thing that sometimes maybe the youth wouldn't be so, like they wouldn't agree much with it, but just taking your kids to Ghana for them to like maybe like live with a grandma for like a year or something, or like over the summer they just spend the summer in Ghana, because as much as we want to give them everything here in regards to the culture, it's like hard to do that in America because it's mingling with the American way of being a Ghanaian. So like for them to have that pure knowledge, the pure stories, the pure experience, it would just be like spending summers in Ghana. And that's harder than it sounds because going to Ghana is expensive. But yeah, that's something that I would try to do for my kids.
get rid of the kids for a summer. I like that.
It's just
That's so true.
Yes, the only sleepovers that I had were with my cousins. I don't know how you guys got away with sleeping with your friends.
that was only once, honestly, and then that was never again. But there's some
That's what
actually
I'm
there's some
saying.
wisdom to it. I mean, looking back, especially in the world that we live in, you don't know what people do in their houses, honestly. And like growing up, like as an adult now, it's like, yeah, would I allow my child to go anywhere, like with strangers that I don't know? Like, so I mean, there's definitely some wisdom to that. But as a kid, you're like, oh, like my parents, they just don't want me to have fun, or they're paranoid about stuff. But I mean, there's some wisdom to the things that our parents do. And so,
And I think that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Growing up with friends, a lot of their stuff is good intention. Sister Cecilia, you can go ahead.
I think the way to keep our culture is, I remember when I was young, my dad used to take me to every Ghanaian event, like to know, like it was Ghana independence. That's where all the cultures will meet and display the adwa, the Ghana dance, every dance. So it was through that I got to know my culture, and on top of it, I participated in activities. Let's say we had a quiz of what do you know about Ghana, and for God being so good, I won. I barely knew nothing about, I barely knew something about Ghana, but I won. That was like 10 years ago. Yeah, 13 years ago. But it was fun to learn. Like they give you a quiz, you get to learn. And I don't know who was the president back then, but I won. So I think if our parents bring us to those events to get to know like what they do in each culture within the Ghanaian community, I think it's going to be a great help. So that's how I was able to learn my Ghanaian culture. And guess what? I go to more events than he does. So I think if we get involved in community work within the Ghanaian community, it will help us a lot to learn about the culture than, like, learning from home as well. Yeah.
Did anyone have any other contributions? I know we have a few comments here. Brother
Some of these comments.
Yeah. Brother Paz said he was in Ghana for 14 years and he's now 16. And his dad recently told him that having a cell phone or PC or gaming console is a privilege. And he understands that because in Ghana, the only games that he got to play was with his friends. Yeah, I didn't have that here either. I didn't get all the gaming consoles either. So definitely had to play with my sister. Yeah, and that was it.
Pa, thank you for putting me on the spot.
We weren't even going to call you out.
If we don't have any other contributions, I think we're going to go ahead and move for the end of our program. So, Uncle, he said he didn't mean it in that way. So thank you all for joining us. I think this is definitely a topic we will continue, maybe with more questions and bring in different people and different perspectives. Thank you, Sister Clara, Brother Oliver, Sister Jess, for contributing and talking a little bit about your identity. Again, this is Ebenezer Methodist Church. This is our Young People's Week, so thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching on Facebook Live, YouTube. Yeah, so thank you, and we will see you tomorrow. Our topic is marriage and relationships. So please come out to hear some good advice from our married folks.